Hello, everyone. Welcome back to King Poe Myers, and this is our second week of King Month with our very special guest, Tony from Tony's Horror Corner. Tony, how you doing?
Pretty well. How you doing?
Doing good. So let's just jump right into it. Since what, December you started rereading Dark Tower?
Yeah. There was a read along going around. Um, and they did the first two books in December and then one a month from there till May.
Okay.
Um, I read the first two in December on track, did that. And then January, just got a little busy. So I lapsed on Wasteland, but then I, picked it up to start February. I'm just going to rock Wasteland and Wizard and Glass back to back.
Nice.
Avoid that weird 6 year, cliffhanger that people reading the books
Was it
when they
really
came
six
out had to deal
years?
with. Yeah,
Oh, I know it's that long.
yeah. When I read them the first time, when I finished Wastelands, I was like, "What?" And then it picks up right where it left off for Wizard and Glass. But then I didn't think about it, but people did. They had to wait 6 years for that cliffhanger, and then after Wizard and Glass, they had to wait another 5 years for Wolves of the Calla. But even between then, King had his accident. So can you imagine how stressful people were feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few coworkers who are helping me read through King, and a big thing for a few of them is that wait in between because they were reading them as they were coming out, and that really had an impact on their experience.
I bet. Yeah. That's why I'm like fortunate I didn't get into it until later. Didn't have to worry about that.
Right?
And I was young enough at the time where it wouldn't have mattered anyway. But
Exactly. I mean, how many times have you read um Dark Tower in its entirety?
just in its entirety, just the once. So this is really journey number
Really?
two. But I read the first three books. Well, once I finish Wastelands, it'll be three times for each of the first three. But um, yeah, for books 4, 5, 6, and 7, and Wind Through the Keyhole, it'll be just the second read.
Okay. And how are
But
you
it is
find
still really vivid and fresh. So like
are you
I'm
pick
already like scared for the ending again.
which amazingly has not been spoiled for me, so I'm very
Good.
very happy about that. I just know there's really a line drawn in the sand from how I just my interactions with people. You love it or you
Yeah.
hate it. I mean,
Yeah, I think everyone that says they end up hating it after a while they end up appreciating it because it's one of those things where it's like there was really no other way to go. Like
mhm.
you'll see when you get there. It's kind of
I
kind of hard
mean,
to do anything else.
we're letting you guys know right now. We will talk spoilers. Obviously, not the ending of Dark Tower because I haven't gotten there yet. But I
Yeah.
just finished reading Wolves of Kala, and
Yeah.
that last couple of pages, I was like, "What?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah. It's
we're talking about Stephen King and this book that he wrote." I'm like, "Wait."
hmm
I started
just
just
wait, just wait till Song of Susanna. It gets super meta.
man, like I'm
It
excited.
get like Wolves was really wonky, but it was almost like he did his own version of like the Magnificent Seven, whatever that old school cowboy movie was. Like he
Mhm.
kind of did his own version of that with wolves. And then Song of Susanna just gets super bonkers, like off the wall, really weird stuff that just will mess with your head. But it's really cool. And then it all kind of comes full circle at the end. And that book is just an emotional roller coaster.
So you appreciated Song of Susanna.
Yeah, I like it a lot of that's probably known as a lot of people's least favorite one.
Mhm.
But I actually really liked it. I really appreciated what he was doing and kind of what he sets up. Like it isn't the whole book is really just an info dump.
Mhm.
And it really just sets up the last book. So
Exactly.
that's why I think a lot of people like don't care for it because like there isn't a ton of action, but there is a lot of really interesting information and world building that he does with the whole of Dark Tower,
Okay.
which is kind of interesting that he does it in the sixth book of the series, but it's cool.
I mean, I told you, I think maybe last week, that I decided I want to essentially take the long way around. So right now, I finished five and I jumped right into desperation because
Okay.
there's a point in Wolves of Kala. I remember this because I was like, oh shit. There's one paragraph where it mentions the low men and it mentions the regulators, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I've not read Hearts of Atlantis. I've not read the regulators. If I'm doing Dark Tower, I want to do it right. I want to have as much
Yeah.
padding
Luckily,
or
I think the cool part about what he does with all those like side books is you can read the Dark Tower series without reading all those, aside from Salem's Lot and The Stand, obviously.
Mhm.
But you can read the whole series without reading all those ones first, and then you can read them all after, and it kind of fills in the
Yeah,
little mentions he threw at you, which is what I did when I read the Towers. I read, I did Salem's Lot and The Stand first, then I read all the Towers books, like back all of them, all 8 in a row, and then I filled in all the other stuff afterward, which was fun because like once you read Hearts in Atlantis, you'll be introduced to a character who comes up in book 7, which was really
hmm,
fun. And then the Lowmen, obviously, like that's part of Hearts and Atlantis as well, and you already met them. Um, what else? There's also a story in. There's 2 stories in Everything's Eventual.
hmm.
Little Sisters of Illyria, which is like a prequel Dark Tower story. It's about Roland like before Gunslinger.
Yeah. I actually
Um,
just got Everything's Eventual just for that story.
yeah,
So
that story is really cool. But there's another one in that collection as well.
really,
The title story.
hmm.
The title story is about a character that comes up in book 7 as well.
Oh, that's really good to know. I did not
Yeah.
know that. Perfect.
So that's kind of interesting. When you read the story, it won't be super apparent
Okay.
that it's a Dark Tower tie. That one's super subtle, um, but the character's name obviously and his person shows up in book 7. You're like, oh shit, it's that guy.
Nice. Um, I mean, like I said, I am reading Desperation right now. Did you like Desperation and Regulators? I mean, I talked to it about it
Yeah, I
with Beth from Read by Beth, and what they're two different stories, but they're the same
mhm.
characters. So I'm assuming it's just like the
Yeah.
different
So it's
dimensions.
yeah. So that's what he does with this, but with those two is he introduced. I guess he did introduce that because it was in like the late '90s. That's when he really like brought up the whole or drove it home because he kind of brings it up in Wastelands, but the whole like different worlds
Yeah.
aspect where like things can be going on simultaneously and it's like the same people but slightly different.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what he like brings up in those 2 books. So they're very similar, but the stories are different. You just have a lot of characters that are say the same names, but they might be slightly different from their character in the other book.
Okay.
I read Desperation first and then immediately read Regulators, which is a fun way to do it if you read them back to back.
Yeah.
Granted, like I did that in the first like 30 pages of Regulators. I was like, wait, who, what? Because the characters are like the same people. So it's like you get really confused, but different settings and different action, obviously, but it's cool.
Okay.
And I think Regulators introduces a little more of the Dark Tower ties than Desperation did. But I think Desperation sets up like what those 2 books do together
Hmm.
better, like if you read it first.
Okay. And actually, I want to ask you, switching to another book that you actually already mentioned, Hearts of Atlantis. Those are 4 separate novellas.
So it's 2 novellas and 3 short stories.
Oh, okay.
And all I actually recently reread that in like October, I think, or November. It's I love that book. It's really really good because I think King does a great job of capturing America in 5 different decades, all surrounding like what the Vietnam War did to our country.
Okay.
So you get like so it's almost like a historical fiction as well as like his classic kind of supernatural storytelling too.
Now, do all of them have to do with the low men and?
Just the first story does.
Okay.
Um, sorta. Yeah, the first story is the only one that's like really heavily related to the Low Man and a character from the Dark Tower series.
Yeah.
But all 5 stories are connected.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's like that's the only one that mentions the low men, but you get like pieces of all the other stuff that gets brought up in that first one come up later in the other stories. It's really interesting how he ties them all together.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Did you like Win Through the Keyhole?
I thought it was fun. It wasn't one of my favorites, but it's mainly because it, and I'd always um, tell people not to read it between 4 and 5 because I just feel like it doesn't really add anything to the overall like story of the Dark
Mm-hmm.
Tower. It's a nice little side piece and it's an interesting little fairy tale. And I think it's pretty fun. But as like the series as for the series as a whole, I don't think it adds much.
Okay. When do you
But I
think you'll?
do intend to reread it in June, I think.
So by June, will you have reread Dark Tower completely?
Yep. The last book I have set for May, so I might even just do Into the Keyhole in May. Um, just do them both then, but we'll see how I'm feeling
Nice.
after the last book.
Um. So let's stick with Dark Tower, but let's jump to one of the books that we want to talk about. It was my top book of 2020, and really just grabbed my heart, and that's Insomnia.
Yeah.
I loved
Yeah, Insomnia is
Ralph.
awesome.
I just loved the story, and I read it before even touching Dark Tower, or so you know, getting to see what was it like? You saw Roland at one point. I think he was
Mm-hmm.
dreaming, and he dreamed about a gunslinger.
Yeah, and then you get little Patrick's little drawing
You
in like the little auditorium that Ben made from it, which was cool.
obviously, I think he does even see the tower at one point. He sees like a large tower with like a field of roses, and I'm like,
Yeah,
wait, because once again, nothing was ever spoiled for me. So I obviously knew about Dark Tower, but I had no idea, how grand it was. So to
yeah,
see Dark Tower in Insomnia, I just flipped out.
yeah. I think Insomnia is really really cool, and I think it's underappreciated because it's so big and it is kind of the slower pace. I think for some people, especially like that first third, when you really get like Ralph is just kind of trying to figure out how to not have insomnia. Like he's just trying all these
Yeah.
weird little remedies to not to fall asleep. That's what he wants to do. And so I think people get lost there. Like people will definitely read it and be like, "Oh, like come on, I don't care anymore. Like just let's go with the story." Um, but I think once he kind of figures out that that was on purpose, it gets really interesting. And I don't know. I read it in late February, like reread it.
Hmm.
So I've read it. I've read it twice now, and it's one of my favorites. And it's just so good. So the imagery is so awesome. I think
Yes.
like throughout the entire book, like all the color imagery King uses, even outside of like their weird visions that they have.
Hmm.
Like yeah, everything kind of is very purposeful, and I think all the characters are great. Like Ralph is like the old man I strive to be. Like
Ralph is such a cool dude. And I remember
yeah,
when I was reading it, my coworkers they were doing a read through of Malazan. I don't know if you are familiar with that series.
I'm not.
It's a epic fantasy, very Game of Thrones to the 10th level. He doesn't create a world; he creates a continent, and there are these
Yeah,
massive battles, and it's very very descriptive and very big and just very intense. Like, what are you reading, Dylan? I'm reading about an old man with insomnia, but like I am
yeah,
just captivated. Keep your fucking battles. I
yeah,
just, I mean, there's a reason why it's in my top five. Hell, even maybe my top three favorite kings. I mean, from beginning to end, I don't understand why this book doesn't get more love. Though I
yeah.
have been seeing
And it
through Instagram the past year, people have been giving it a lot of love, and it's
yeah. People, I think once people like actually pick it up and read it and kind of appreciate it for what it is, you definitely see more people like it than originally.
I can't wait to reread it. And it's just such a great book.
It really is. It's just a beautifully written book, and he like packs a lot of information, action, like just an amazing story into that book. And then you get all the cool like it ties and the Dark Tower ties, even a little Pet Cemetery mention in there.
Yep.
It's fun.
And I just remember losing my mind when the chapter ended with, and then we were in the the court of the Crimson King, and I was like,
Mhm.
wait,
Yeah,
what?
that's actually the first time. That's actually the first time you see him in any of King's books,
Oh, it's so
which is really cool. It's not the first time he's mentioned, but it's the first time you actually see him.
good.
And it's like he's been this, you know, godlike figure, obviously a bad god, but godlike figure for this whole series and all this other stuff that he's done and talked about. And then you finally like see him, and that whole scene with him and Ralph was just so weird, but like crazy and intense.
So good. Oh, I can't wait to reread that.
Yeah.
To our next book, The Long Walk.
Yeah, The Long Walk's fun. I've read it twice. I actually am planning on jumping into it, and well, this will be released in March, right? So this month in March. Um, I'm doing I'm gonna do like a 7 months of Bachman read along and read all seven of them from
Nice.
March to September. That's where it lands me. October, I don't know, off the top of my head, whatever. But I felt like March was a good place to start with The Long Walk, because Walk March. But um, it's easily my favorite Bachman,
Yeah.
like hands down, not even close. Like none of the other ones touch it, I think. And it's in my top 10 King as well. Like it's just an awesome book. And he wrote it when he was what, like 19. Like
It's unreal. Yeah.
it's pretty unbelievable. I mean,
That's
it was published in the 70s, but he wrote it way before that.
mm-hmm. What is
And
about
it's just awesome.
what is it about though? The Long Walk. I mean, I haven't read all the Bachman books, but I have read I think most of them. What is it about those books that are just so? Is it because they're just so different from his normal style? Because I feel like they're just much grittier.
Yeah, they're grittier. They're more like, I think they're more, a lot of them, aside from like Regulators and Thinner, I guess, a lot of them are very less supernatural.
Mhm.
So you get these more like kind of dystopian. Well, Roadwork was present day, but whatever. The other ones are more like
That book
dystopian,
gets
and
no love. I've
um,
not read it, but
it's just boring.
what isn't it? Is
It's
this?
just Roadwork was boring.
It's an old man, and they're trying to build like a highway through his property, right?
Yeah, they're trying to build a new, like a new overpass. They need to tear, like they need him to move because they're gonna build it like where his house is. He doesn't want to move, so he's being a pain in the ass.
I'm captivated.
Yeah, I don't know. Roadwork just doesn't do it for me. But The Long Walk is awesome because King somehow manages to make you feel like you're there. Like
Yeah.
after you read that book, like my feet hurt. Like it's tired. It's like exhausting to read, but it's really, really good and just intense. And I think a lot of people, for some reason, don't appreciate the ending, and I think it's actually really cool because Garrity, like that literally is just showing that he's like still stuck. He's still in that mindset. He's like, I gotta go. I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. Like he doesn't. That dark figure really was just him, his mind. Like he lost him. He lost it.
Mm-hmm.
He was done.
I mean, I had no complaints with that ending. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
When I first read it, I actually started reading it. I got the flu, and I tried to keep reading it, but I was getting so exhausted reading it. I just had to put it down
Yeah.
because, like you said, you feel tired. You feel like you're with them.
You really do. And I think that's what King does a really good job of that. I think in a lot of his books, where I think that's part of why the Dark Tower, everyone gets so invested in the Dark Tower series, because you feel like you're with those characters. Like you want to see the tower, you want to get to the end. And then with the long walk, it's the same thing. Like you want to finish the walk. Like you want to
Yeah.
be the last one. You want to see what the prize is. Like you and then you, when as walkers fall, as they die, you're like shit. Like we're getting there. We're getting to the end. It's getting close. And you go like, and the way he just describes all the characters, like how exhausted they get, how hungry they are, and how thirsty they are, and how desperate they are, was really just perfect.
And they talk about how people train for it, and like they would start to get Charlie horses, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, like, oh no. Yeah, like anytime anybody, like bent to tie their shoe or like massage their calf, I was like, get up. Like it's freaky.
Very. I
I think
noticed
somebody has the movie rights, I think, which should be interesting.
Really?
If they end up doing that. Yeah.
I know the kid who played Dustin in Stranger Things. I remember he posted it on Instagram. Like, I just read on The Long Walk. It was so amazing. I'd love to be part of that. I'm like,
Did he
wait,
really?
like The Long Walk as a movie or like a mini series or something like that. I don't know.
I think it'd be a cool movie. I think they could do it, but it would be interesting because it really is just kids walking for an hour and a half. It would really be the movie, but
Yeah, you'd have to get a lot of backstory and flashbacks
yeah,
and that kind of shit. But
which I think is cool because they do mention there's like one passage where they talk about some like World War II bombing where like it hit like New York or something. So it almost makes it seem like this is an alternate reality where like maybe we lost World War II or something, or like we won a different way. Like it's kind of interesting how he brought that up somewhere in there.
I noticed you posted you actually have a copy of The Long Walk. Like
Yeah, I have a few.
it's not part of the Bachman books. It's like a single edition, and you have a guard, armed, and you have like the kids walking. Like that is just one of the best covers I've ever seen.
That's the first edition, the UK cover. And I snagged it on eBay one day because I was like, I need to have it because this book is awesome.
That's a nice snag, my friend. That is, I'm looking at it right now.
I'm
Like
still trying to get the US covers because like the original 4 Bachman books are not easy to find and they were only in paperback. Obviously you can get them pretty easily now with the Signet Gallery paperbacks, but I want like the old school Signets, but I'm trying to find it. Those ones they're tough and they definitely are not cheap. Gotta wait for the right time.
I hear you. I mean, I totally understand why you would put it at your number one Bachman. I got to reread the Bachmans, and also finish reading the Bachmans, but I think Thinner still has it for me. There's just something about that story that just clicks with me.
Yeah, Thinner's interesting because it's like you definitely get that the little bit of like desperation feeling where you're like the guy's he's losing weight and he doesn't know why, and you're like, when's it gonna stop? Like I like the way King describes him becoming like emaciated. I thought that was really really interesting. But that book has there's a lot of weird stuff going on in that one, I think, with like the gypsies and then the weird like racist undertones that are just like just strange. But I'm gonna reread it, I think this summer at some point. So we'll see how that goes.
Absolutely. I mean, once again, it could be worse. It could be road work.
Yeah. Could be road work.
And The Dead Zone.
The Dead Zone's awesome. I reread this last year around this time, and it's so good. I think it ended up being my favorite reread of 2020.
Really?
Yeah, because it's one of his earlier books, and I think it's really cool because it introduces a lot of themes that he touches on in later books. I mean, it's the first Castle Rock book. It's the first one outside of like Danny and some of the characters in The Stand that you see like somebody with um some sort of like foresight, like future sight powers.
Hmm.
Um and then and you really see how that like tears into somebody when they develop that like later in life, not when they kind of grow up with it. It's some like this catastrophic event happen and all of a sudden he has these abilities and it's like how is he gonna work with that? And Johnny Smith, I think, is one of King's like most truly like good characters. Like he I mean he has his flaws, but he doesn't seem to be have like a bad bone in his body, you know what I mean?
No,
And
just
I
a
think that's kind of interesting because most of King's characters definitely have like that flip side of their coin. And you don't really see that a lot with Johnny until later when he's losing his mind. So
yeah. I mean, I think he's definitely, for me at least, one of his most tragic characters because
yeah.
he just the story just broke my heart. Like I felt
Yeah, the
so
story is
bad.
that's what I tell a lot of people like before they read. I'm like, this story is very sad. Just like heads up, like the whole book is very sad and really depressing, but it's so good. Like just
Yeah.
so well written. And I really like the last like third that like third part, whatever, like the laughing tiger is what it's called.
Hmm.
And I really like that metaphor that he like kind of drove in there with the Vietnamese like caretaker at the house, the guy with the yard worker. And
Hmm.
he like told Johnny about this weird like laughing tiger story that's like a folk thing with them.
Hmm.
And then how he like brought that back up in Johnny's dream about Stilson, and it was just really interesting how he like drives that home.
Hmm. Hmm. We both loved the book. Did you see the movie?
I did. Yeah, I've seen the movie, but not the TV series.
I didn't even know they did a TV
Um,
series.
yeah, there's a TV series. I don't know if it was any good or not. I haven't even seen it. I don't know where to watch it either. When people are part of the problem. But I don't mind the movie. I think the movie's good in its own way. It's not great, and Christopher Walken is Christopher Walken, so it's like for me that was kind of tough to see him as
Such
Johnny.
a
But
weird choice for Johnny.
yeah, but I think the book itself is actually, or the movie itself is actually pretty good. Some of the changes they made, I was like, man, but at the beginning they did a couple of the changes they made were just to move the story along a little bit. I think
Mhm.
that wasn't detrimental.
Okay. I thought it was a very fairly true adaptation. I mean, obviously you can't go
Yeah,
directly from the book, but I thought it was pretty damn true, and I was really
yeah,
surprised.
it's one of the better ones for sure in terms of like staying close.
Now I have to put your feet to the fire. What do you think is the truest adaptation we've ever gotten from a Stephen King book? I mean,
Probably, I honestly, it's probably like the big three, like Stand by Me, Shawshank, or Green Mile.
okay.
I think all three of those are practically spot on. Like there's little bits and pieces here and there that they either didn't throw in or took out, and I think the Green Mile actually did what they did with the movie. I think was almost better than how the book did it because like with um, Paul at the old folks home, the
Mm,
movie starts and ends there, and that's it. That's all you get from him at the old folks home, which I think is great because for me the Green Mile the book was so good, but I got a little lost or not lost, but I got like a little bored at times when it kept flipping back and forth between him being at the old folks home and then going to the time when he was with Coffee on the Mile.
okay. Yeah, I've seen the movie a few times, like when I was younger, before I even started reading all that much. But I will read the book eventually. It's just for me as a reader, I don't really like stories in the prison system, whether it's prison or death
It's
row
fair.
or
Yeah.
I've never been in jail. I've never had a loved one in jail. It's just and I get why it's such a captivating place to tell a story because you have all the criminals in one place. Like how can that not be a great place to tell a story? And it is.
Yeah.
But for me, like I love Shawshank. I respect the hell out of it. I don't know when I'll ever reread it or watched the movie. Outstanding story.
Yeah.
But just one of those things that's just really not for me.
Doesn't, yeah, that's, yeah. I mean, it's not for everybody for sure.
But I think
Yeah, and I think the
go ahead.
Stand By Me and The Body are like almost spot on.
I never watched Stand By Me.
Oh, it's so good. It's a great movie. They did like those boys play the characters from the book so well, like spot on. And Kiefer Sutherland plays Ace Merrill. That's
I
fun.
was just about to ask who plays Ace. Ugh.
Young Kiefer, it's awesome.
Maybe one of King's like just most despicable characters. I hate Ace so much.
Yeah, Ace is brutal.
Well written, but good God.
Yeah.
Going back to Dead Zone, would you say Dead Zone is your favorite Castle Rock?
No, the Dark House my favorite Castle Rock, but Dead Zone's number 2. Dead Zone's in my like top 15. And I think it is a 5-star, if not close to a 5-star read for me. Like it's just a really, really good book, and it like tugs at your heart the whole time. The
Yeah,
whole time. I mean, the whole time
the
you're just
whole
like
time.
it hurts.
I think I've mentioned it on here before, but I still can't get over when his should have been wife and her son come to the house, and like his dad brings out like the blocks or whatever, and they all start playing, and they all kind of like look at each other and like, this is what should have happened.
Yeah,
And it's
that
like, oh
yeah, especially because like the night he got into his accident, like they had like a great time at the fair
yep.
or the carnival, whatever, and they, and then Johnny's world just ended, really, in a way.
That story just breaks my heart. I just can't get over, like, I've not gotten over reading that the first time.
Yeah. Well, the first time I read it was right after Trump got elected. So the whole time I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm reading about Trump right now with all the stills, because Stillson, I mean, just how he got elected is more or less what Trump did. It was really interesting. I thought like that King predicted Trump
Yeah.
without realizing it.
I loved how he always had, what was it? He had the hard hat and you'd throw hot dogs at the people.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, I was like, what? And the best was one of his political ploys was he was like, I'm gonna shoot all the trash into space, and I was like, what? Like, what's that gonna do?
it'll be off Earth. There
Yeah.
you go. Boom.
Like, that's a very expensive way to get rid of trash.
Yeah. Yeah, Stilson, I mean, he just that opening scene with him and the dog. I mean,
Yeah, talk about a bad guy for no reason. I mean, that was what was interesting to me is we don't really get a lot of Stilson's backstory before that point. So like you never know if like was he one of those bad guys that had a terrible childhood? Like a lot of King's like truly vile characters have some sort of like childhood trauma, which I'm not saying that justifies anything they do
oh
when
yeah,
they're
yeah, of
adults,
course.
but Stilson's one of the few where we don't get that. So it's like he really was just a bad person for bad person's sake. Like he was just a despicable human being.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ace is a scumbag, but he's a low grade scumbag. I mean,
Yeah, he's just like your typical like neighborhood thug that never goes beyond being a neighborhood thug. Like we see that in Hateful Things. Like he's got a drug problem. He got into selling guns. Like it's all this. Like he just never got over who he was as a high school bully.
yeah, he couldn't let high school go. God, he's created so many like just captivating characters, and some of them, yeah, just pure filth.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you ever read Rose Matter yet, I just recently reread that one, but Norman Daniels is probably one of his worst. That guy is despicable.
Yeah, Sandra's told me to read that, and yeah, hopefully I can get
Yeah, we
to.
actually just read it for her read along,
Nice.
but or reread it. It's a good book, but Norman is he's probably takes the cake for worst King villain, I think. Like just
Really?
because he's just that terrible. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, like Flag is I think he's the best bad guy that King's written, but he's not he is an otherworldly being. Like he's like Norman
Yes.
is a normal person and he's just terrible.
I have to jump on what you just said. So I read The Stand just a couple months ago for the first time, and yeah, Randall Flagg is just my god. I love him so much. I love The
He's
Stand.
awesome.
It was such an amazing story. I've been following you a lot because you've been
Yeah.
doing reviews of The Stand, the
The
TV
series.
series. I broke one of my cardinal rules and I don't care. I believe that whenever an actor is casted, the internet usually blows up and says, "Oh God, how could you choose this person?"
Yeah.
I always want to give people a fair shake. I want to see them in the costume. I want to see them perform.
Yeah, definitely.
I saw like the stills of Randall Flagg, and I'm like, that's for me, just for me, that's not Randall Flagg. Like, I don't know
Nope.
who that
I
Playboy
don't
model is. That is
yeah, I don't
not
think
Randy.
I like Alexander Skarsgård. I like him as an actor, but I don't think he is Flag. I think he's one of the only casting choices in that TV series that like wasn't great, but the TV series as a whole is just not good because the directing is terrible. Like the
Oh,
directing and the writing is awful. The I think the actors are actually doing a really good job. I think they
well,
are
that's good.
they're portraying the characters how they're being told to portray the characters,
Hmm.
which isn't always good, but they're doing well. The writing, whoever wrote that series, which I like you can look and there's a lot of different people are writing each episode. Um the people writing the episodes and then the directing, I just don't none of it makes sense. Like it that series took away all emotional value that King put into that book. And there's a lot. Like and this series it just feels like a empty shell of like what that book is.
That is so sad.
Yeah, there are people that I mean some people like it, some people are having fun with it,
What? That's good at
and
least.
some people are able to they sit there and they'll like and they can you know go in with low expectations and then be like my expectations were met, which is true, but I you know try to do that and I still am disappointed. So it's like
Have you watched the '90s TV series?
yes, I watched it and it's no one's gonna sit there and say that was a fantastic adaptation either, but I think it's kind of fun, but it is super cheesy.
It's the '90s.
Yeah, exactly. So
But was it truer to the story?
for the most part, it's definitely truer, but it's way shorter,
Hmm.
which is why like I also get really frustrated with this new one because the '90s series had I think 5.5 hours of airtime
Okay.
and like a a big budget at the time, but not nearly as big as what we have right now with this series. Like not even close. Even if you do the whole like adjustments and make them even, it's like the budget for right now is massive compared to like what that old one had. And the time constraints on this one were doubled. Like so we had 10 hours of or 9.5, 10 hours of TV compared to 5.5. And this series is on a streaming platform, meaning that they don't have the like the primetime TV constraints where they can do all
Hmm.
the bloody stuff. They can show all the nudity, all the cursing, all the craziness that the '90s TV series couldn't because it was being aired, right after 60 Minutes or whatever, whenever it came on. But and so putting all those comparisons, I think the '90s one's better because with all the limitations it had, it still did a better job than what this one has without all the constraints.
Mm.
Like this, if this series had been 2 seasons, I wouldn't be nearly as mad about it. Like they somehow still made it feel rushed with 9 episodes.
I don't know why they did a miniseries. Or, I'm sorry, a limited
Yeah.
miniseries.
Yeah, it should have been 2 seasons. Season 1 should have ended when everybody got to Boulder, Vegas.
Yeah.
And then season 2 starts with them rebuilding their towns and all the back and forth. 2 seasons would have been perfect.
It would have, but no. You get, just like, I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones fan, but just like that last season, like, hey, you guys have as many seasons as you want. Blank check. No, we can do it in like
just
7
keep
episodes.
going. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
7
that's why
episodes.
like even with that last season, if they would have just done it like their normal 12 episodes, it would have been better.
No. We can do 7, and some of them will have like not even be an hour.
Yeah,
Are
and then the
are
last 2
you
would be like 2
sure?
hours for no reason.
We'll give you more time. We're
Yeah.
happy to give you more money. No, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either because it was like HBO was like, go ahead.
You want to spend money.
Yeah, this is doing nothing but making us a load of money. So please take your time.
I hate them. How many more episodes of The Stand do you have?
2 more.
Do you
So that
think
what today's February 1st, so the next episode's this coming Thursday, which is what I don't know what the date is, but the 4th, and then the last episode's on the 11th. So we'll see how. And the last episode was supposedly it's a brand new epilogue. Like
okay.
King wrote it just for the series, and it's a totally like it's just an extra piece that isn't in any of the books. So it'll be something totally new. We'll see how that goes. That'll probably be the only episode I don't get angry at because I have nothing to get mad at. I have nothing to base it off of. So we'll see.
Do you think with how they've built it up right now, could the last episodes could it be such a good finale that it somewhat saves the show, or is it kind of already?
Maybe, but I don't know. For just with what they've done and like how they've done certain things, I just no matter there'll always be an asterisk on it. No matter what, even if these last 2 episodes are great, there'll always be something parts that I'll be like, it was cool except for this, and this. Like I'm still we just
So
finished
upsetting.
episode 7 on last Thursday, and I'm still angry about episode 2. So it's like,
well, this is all spoilers, and I'm not watching it. What happened in episode 2 that upset you?
that was the episode they focused on Larry.
Mm-hmm.
They did Larry's entire California and New York storyline in one episode.
Oh.
And instead of going through the Lincoln Tunnel, he went through a sewer. And I was very upset. They also tried to make him a drug addict, and
What?
he got into a random fight with his friend Stucky, who really never shows up in the book. Like there's conversations, they hang out like once in California, whatever. But like he shows up in New York and like threatens to kill Larry for no reason, and then like dies, and Larry takes a bag of drugs from him. And then that's pretty much the end of that storyline. Like nothing happens because of that. So they didn't need to do that at all. Like they threw in a new storyline and did nothing with it. So it was really stupid. And then they had him go through the sewer instead of like the most iconic scene in the book, which is the Lincoln Tower tunnel. And why? Their reasoning was money. And I was like, how the hell is a sewer less expensive than a tunnel? It's the same thing, just with water instead of cars. I don't understand.
Did they have the woman that he was with? That he was kind
Yeah,
of
Rita.
Yeah.
Heather Graham played Rita, and so really it was just Larry and Heather Graham. walking around New York City. It was, so, and she didn't. I mean, she didn't do a whole lot. She played the character pretty well, I guess. But again, it was just it's Heather Graham. You're just looking at Heather Graham the whole time. She's just playing herself. Like,
I remember when I was reading it, her death, for some reason, it had some type of impact on me because I was just so shocked by it.
yeah, I think because even like Larry was like, "What the hell?" Like, because he thought she was kind of getting better. Like he thought they were
Yeah.
going to be friends and make it together, and then she just OD'd in the tent right next to him, and he was like, "Christ."
Thought you were getting better, girl. Come on.
Yeah, like what the hell? I think that's why it like kind of shocks readers because she definitely seemed to be like on the mend.
When I was
And that's
reading
also
it,
like the point when we start seeing Larry like starting to become a better person too.
yeah. When I was reading it, I was, telling my coworkers, where I am and everything. And when she died, I was like, Randall had something to do with this. Like I was convinced there was going to be a scene
Yeah.
where like Randall went there and just fucked with her. But no, she just was like, yeah, you know what?
She just couldn't handle the end of the world.
Come on. Come on, love. It's all right. You got Larry with you.
Yeah. Just have him sing to you all night. They did a cool part, speaking of singing, a cool part of the one of the only like highlights of the new series so far is we did get a clip of Baby Can You Dig Your Man
Nice.
at the end of the latest episode. You hear it like in the background when the remaining people from the Boulder Committee arrive at Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear a clip playing in the casino, and it sounds really cool. Like it's a little more like rock and roll than I think King describes it in the book. So they just kind of modernized it, but it was good. I thought it was good. I hope we hear more of it, and I hope they like release it so we can actually listen to it. But
Yeah,
we'll
seriously,
see.
I was about to pull that up on YouTube right now. Like, I want to hear
Yeah,
that.
I don't. It might be, but I don't know. You can probably look up the clip. Like they'll probably
Mm-hmm.
have it from like that scene. Um, but I don't think they have it anywhere to like listen to the whole song yet. If they do, which I wouldn't be surprised if with all the weird constraints that they for some reason put on themselves, that they only have like a 30-second clip of it.
Who did this? CBS?
Yeah, but I blame Josh Boone.
I'm not familiar with the man who is Josh Boone.
I haven't actually seen anything else that he's done, but he was involved in or he made the New Mutants that came out that got delayed like 6 times and then delayed again because of COVID. So it's like, and then apparently when it came out, like nobody really liked it. So there's that. I don't know what else he's done, but apparently it's been nothing like amazing. So I wish they would have given this to Flanagan.
This is just.
Can him or Frank Darabont do all of the King adaptations, please?
What has he done?
Flanagan,
Yeah,
he's done Gerald's Game and Doctor Sleep.
I still need to see Doctor Sleep. I love the
Yeah,
book.
Doctor Sleep was awesome.
I
The
gotta see
movie was
that.
really good, and the Gerald's Game movie was great too. So it's just as hard to watch as it is to read, if we're being honest. So, but it was good.
I have not read it. I watched it, and that was very difficult to watch.
Yeah,
Would you say the?
it's a little more brutal in the books. There's a heads up when you get there.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, that one's rough.
I put that on random. I didn't even know it was King. Like when it first came out, I'm like, oh, cool, a new horror movie, and I'm, Jesus.
Yeah, that's what Flanagan was tied to the revival movie coming out, but I think he dropped out for whatever reason. Because originally Josh Boone, the dude doing the stand, had it, and then all of a sudden there was news that Flanagan took it over, and everyone was like, "Yes!" And now Flanagan's off it, so I don't know what's happening with that.
Yeah, didn't they cancel that?
I don't think they canceled it completely, but Flanagan dropped out. I know that,
Mm.
which sucks because I think if anybody was going to do it really well, it could have been him. And I think the guy Andy Muschietti, the guy who did the It movies, the new ones,
Mm-hmm.
I think his studio has of all books the rights to road work.
Ooh.
which like I don't know why they would, what they can do with that for a movie, but we'll see.
I mean,
And I think all 4 stories from If It Bleeds got picked up for movies or TV series. Ben Stiller's company picked up Rat, I believe,
huh.
which could be cool.
Wow, all 4 of them.
All 4 of them did, which is interesting because I feel like Mr. Harrigan's Phone is like just another Twilight Zone episode, and then Life of Chuck. I think it was a good story, but I don't know how good of a movie or TV show that could end up being.
Mm-hmm.
And then If It Bleeds, like if they were gonna do that, they should just let whoever did The Outsider TV series do that because it would just roll right in. But
Well, didn't The Outsider was confirmed for a second season, so I just
but
assumed.
then it got canceled.
Oh, God damn it!
Like that came up pretty recently. Like they had us so it was gonna open for a second season, which if they were gonna do a second season, it should have been the story from If It Bleeds.
Yeah,
which would have been cool. But they canceled it, so we'll see.
I mean, I'm only halfway through the show, but I'm really liking
I
the
think
show.
the Outsider TV series was good. I liked it a lot. It got slow. It felt a little dragged out toward the end. I think I think what they did 10 episodes, it probably easily could have been 8.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still really good. It was well done. All the
Yes.
acting was good. The imagery was great. I thought it was like cinematically, it was fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely. Really made you depressed watching it. Just like that very
Yeah, it was dark. It was
dark.
just rough at times for sure.
Have you by chance watched Mr. Mercedes?
I haven't. I have them on DVD because I was like, I don't want to try to figure out how to work whatever streaming service they were on to start with.
Yeah, no.
It was some weird something or other. So I like waited till they came out on DVD, and I have them. I just haven't watched them yet.
Okay.
I heard they're not bad though. So
I read the first 2 books in January. Absolutely love them.
the first 2 are really, really good. The third one I don't love as much because I think it strays from what made the first 2 so good.
Yeah, I mean, first one, a domestic terrorist. Second one, you have like this really
You get like it's an
cool
ode to misery. The
crime.
second one is an ode to misery, which is fun.
I
Really.
absolutely love. I think I may like Finding Keepers a little bit more, but I
I
love
do
them
too.
both.
Yeah, the first 2 are really good, and then the third one ends up being really low for me just because it like I don't know, it just didn't do a lot for me.
Like I read the first like 50 pages or so, and I was like, oh, that's
Different, yeah.
I'm definitely gonna finish it because I want to see how it turns out. But that's when I was like, I want to jump back into Dark Tower, so I finished The Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and obviously that sets up The Outsider.
Yeah.
So I may reread that at some point in life. But where are you on the Holly train?
I'm not a fan. I don't know. I mean, the first book, like getting the introduction to her character and kind of she's, strange. She has her problems, which is, interesting. It's cool, like whatever. I like that King has complicated characters. And then we get to like watch her grow throughout the series and become less and less reserved, which is fun. You get that, but I just can't stand her. Like I didn't really care for her growth. And then I felt like she ruined Outsider
Really?
for me. Like I thought Outsider was really cool until she showed up, and I was like, what? Like, because then it just they couldn't figure out on their own. I think it would have been way cooler if they called literally anybody else, like just a new character. That would have been cool. Like it didn't have to be her. You know what else would have been awesome? Alan Pangborn. That would have been cool. If King's gonna bring back anybody, why would he bring back Holly? Bring back Alan Pangborn, who's dealt with way more supernatural shit than she has. And the Outsider is pretty much dark half light, so that would have been really cool too.
Dark half light. All right, I love the dark half, but oh come on.
Yeah, I love the dark half. Outsider doesn't touch it, but I think like in terms of like themes, there are very similar aspects. Like the whole with Ralph trying to figure out like who the killer is, and it's like they keep blaming this other guy because they thought it was him. Like that's pretty much Pangborn talking to Thad about Stark the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they are really similar. And there's even a scene when I think it might have been Holly or some other cop finds um, a car in a parking lot, and it was one that the outsider had used to like get away.
Yeah.
And it's literally almost word for word the same scene that happens in the dark half when some cop finds Stark's car in a parking lot and it's like covered in blood and they have all this weird stuff that like ties back to Thad. Like it's almost exactly the same. So that's why I call it Dark Half Light. And that's why I think it would have been really cool if it would have been Pangborn instead of Holly. And if that were the case, Dark Half would be way higher up for me than it is.
All right. All right. You just have you have my brain going. I mean, yeah, that would have been amazing if they brought back Pangborn. Brought him back in the show. That was really cool.
I think. Yeah, I loved that. Like the Castle Rock TV series wasn't great, but I did like Pangborn, and I liked Sissy Spacek's character was really cool. I still think episode 7 of the first season, like the one where she shoots Pangborn, is honestly one of the best episodes of like a TV series I've watched just overall, because I think that episode was just really, really well done. Like, and it just had a lot going on there, but it was really good. I liked all the parts with Annie in season 2, but I hated all the weird cult stuff that like they like tried to tie into Salem's Lot, but wasn't really Salem's. I don't know. It was weird.
I only got a couple of episodes into season 2, and I think one of the episodes ended with them just saying, "Oh, look, it's the Marston house," and it was just this house in like the middle of the woods. I'm like, the Marston house is on top of the hill, and it looks over the town, and like you're kind of missing the.
Yeah, it's weird. The Marston house, like when they show more of it later, and it does have that like on top of a hill kind of look to it. That visually, like when they show the house, it looks good. Like it looks like the Marston house. But other than that, it doesn't tie into the Salem's Lot novel at all. Like I don't know why they even tried. Like they should just have made it its own haunted house, and it wouldn't have been as weird.
Yeah, but once again, they were just I think they were just throwing shit at the wall and just.
Yeah, because I mean, even like Tim Robbins playing Pop Merrill was like not what I would expect Pop Merrill to be like at all. And then the guy that played Ace in that was not how I thought an older Ace would be either.
Though I did love Ace's end.
In Needful Things, or
well, in both, but in Castle Rock.
Yeah. Well,
I kind of saw it coming a little bit because he started to push Annie around. I'm like, oh, Ace, you dumb hick.
Yeah, don't
mess
awesome.
with Annie. That's one of the most brutal deaths I've ever seen.
That's the weird part about that season, though, is he comes back. So it's like it gets weird.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets really weird. but Annie killing him with ice cream scooper was awesome.
That was so brutal.
Yeah. See, that's why I liked the first like 3 or 4. I think the first 3 episodes were really good, and the last episode was awesome. But like everything in between, I just was like, what the hell is happening? Like, what are they trying to do? The last episode was really good because it's mostly Annie, and then it like kind of goes right up to, obviously there's still a big gap between Castle Rock and Misery, but you definitely get more of what she's gonna be like in Misery at the end of the second season of Castle Rock, which was cool to see that.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna give season 2 another chance at some point. I mean, I'm just
it also didn't get picked up for season 3, so you might as well at some point, because there won't be another one.
Them not picking up season 3, do you think it messes? Like, were they trying to go for something?
No, I don't. they didn't leave it off like that at all, because it's the
Okay.
same thing with like season one. Like they didn't really tie in with season two at all. It's because it was supposed to be like when they introduced it at the start, it was supposed to be like an anthology series. So each
Yeah.
season was supposed to be different. With obviously, there's going to be a couple little things that tie it together, like Bill Skarsgård's character.
Hmm.
Um, but the way they ended season two, they definitely wouldn't. The only thing they could do from that would be to make a Misery TV series, which would be really cool. But I don't think they're gonna do that.
No.
And that was also hinted with I forget if she was in season one or season two, but the redheaded girl, who was like a descendant of the Torrances or something.
Hmm.
Like she was like one of the cousins, whatever. Like there was in the rumor mill somewhere that there was going to be an Overlook TV series, and so I was like, I wonder if it's
Wow.
going to be her exploring the Overlook like currently. But I don't know if they're going to do that or if it's going to be like before the Torrances get there, or how they're going to do it, if they're going to do it.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that. Um, so there's a few more things before we wrap up, and we've
Sure.
covered a whole lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
This year, King comes out with 2 books. We have Later
Mm-hmm.
and Billy Summers. If I could give you one of them to read right now, which one would you take?
Probably Later, because I like his hard case crime books, and I think like I love Joyland, and I think I actually like Colorado Kid. I'm planning on reading it very soon in preparation for Later, even though I've heard that Later is more similar to Joyland than Colorado Kid,
Okay.
but it's not. I don't think it's along the same lines at all. I think it's just thematically it's gonna lean more that way than the other. So yeah, I think that's why I'm more excited for that one. And like with Billy Summers, it just seems like he's doing another like Mercedes Finders Keepers Outsider. If it bleeds like another crime story, and I'm just like, I want I want more. I want some more like old school,
Yes.
like actual horror. Like give me something creepy. Kind of done with all this crime stuff, but
I like his
we'll
crime
see.
stuff. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
I don't dislike it, but I definitely prefer his more horror books than anything.
Like, I think it's time for him to do write a Halloween novel. It, it,
Yeah,
it's time, Mr. King. It's time. Just give us a really awesome classic horror on Halloween night. Just that's what I'm just holding
yeah.
out hope for. That'd be my absolute
My
dream.
only problem is I just don't know if he actually can do it anymore. Like I don't know if he has it in him. I think that's why he's done all this crime stuff and
Really.
more like touching books, because I don't think he can. I mean, if you read Institute, it kind of shows right there. Like that book didn't have a lot of the crazy like off the wall shit that his other books of the same like themes would have had. Like if you compare Institute and Firestarter, like right there, that's where you see the old and the new. So it's just kind of interesting to look at with like how he writes now. And I don't know if he'd be able to produce something as good and as scary as he used to, but I'm all for it. I'm gonna read
Yeah.
everything he puts out until he does. So
I don't know. For me, I really was not touched that much by Firestarter. I thought it was cool. I thought the
yeah,
Firestarter was really cool because she was essentially like just an X-Men. Like she was powered up beyond belief. But I love
yeah,
the Institute. I absolutely loved just everything about that story. I thought it had just everything from, you have, the kids going through all this crap. They're not all that powerful, which is kind of a new fun twist. Usually they all are just roided up on powers and
yeah,
they're not that strong. I love the shootout at the very end. I like how just at the end, all like it was almost like Needful Things. Just like he likes to build up with the
yeah.
layers and then everything just hits the fan. So
I was yeah, I did like how I didn't hate Institute by any means. I just like when I was comparing the two, I just think it's like it was interesting that he chose to make all those characters like not very powerful, and I think that was like something where like old school King would have made these kids where either like they started developing and like becoming these like badasses and they just blew the fuck out of the institute, or like I think that's kind of where old school King would have gone. And
Mhm.
that's why I'm trying to say, like, I think now he has just, there's a different style, a different mindset
Yeah.
than he did in the past.
I'm just still upset that he didn't connect them.
Oh, me too. That's one of my biggest qualms with Institute is that it was right there. It was there. It was so easy to do.
I
He
purposely
just could have
read Firestarter before the
literally
Institute.
he could have had that dude at the end of Institute be like, oh, in the 80s, our section called the shop got blown up. Like, bam, there. That's all he had to say, and I would have been happy.
I guess it was too perfect.
I did like the character Tim a lot. I thought if he ever like expands on him, he could be like what he nurtures into as like the next kind of like somewhat of a Pangborn like character.
Yeah.
Like that of his most recent characters, like Tim had the most potential to be like that guy.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting how he gets like the first, what? I forget. It
Yeah,
was like 40, 50
it
pages.
opened up with him, and then all of a sudden you don't see him again until like page 500 or whatever. You're like, what?
I really thought it was a misprint. I'm like, where is this guy?
Yeah, I definitely got confused like when it opened up with him like that.
But then when the kid escapes, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, as soon as he escaped, I was like, oh, that's where he's going. Like, oh, that's where he's gonna end up.
And then I just love the Institute so much. I love how, like, I don't know if he was on the dry cleaner or whatever, but one of our operatives have spotted him. It's like, do you have an
Yeah,
operative in this rinky dink little town? Like, yeah, because we're the Institute.
they got him everywhere.
So
I liked the crazy like the crazy woman in the town how she was reading the inside view and she mentioned Salem's Lot. That
yes.
was fun. Fun little nod. And I love any mention of the inside view is really fun. If you read Night Flyer from Nightmares and Dreamscapes, that's a good one. That like talks
Yes.
about that magazine a lot. And the character um Dees, he
Hmm.
uh he was in Dead Zone as well. He like went and
Really?
berated Johnny and then you see him in Night Flyer later, and obviously that didn't end so well for him.
I hmm.
Richard
Thank you,
Dees.
Richard Dees. Thank you for that one.
Yeah, he shows up at Johnny's doorstep because he like found out that Johnny's been having all these psychic flashes, and so and the inside view is that magazine that talks all about these crazy happenings in the world and blah
Hmm.
blah blah. And Johnny like kicks him to the curb, and Richard gets all pissed off.
That I remember. Okay.
Yeah, and then he's the main character in the Night Flyer, which obviously was off the wall. So
Did you ever see the movie?
yeah, I like the movie's actually really good. That's another one that like was pretty spot on.
I actually just got that, so I'm really looking forward to watching that one.
It does a really good job of like capturing that story and like everything that happens there, all that crazy shit. And because my favorite part is like in that story at the end when he's like at the air or when he finally like catches up to him and he just walks through like all the massacre and he goes to the bathroom and then like in the mirror you just see blood in the urinal like because the vampire's peeing into the urinal but you can't see him because it's a mirror. I was like, that was awesome. That was such a cool such a cool touch.
Oh man. Yeah.
And they do that in the movie, so it was cool. Like they,
Really?
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, Nightmares and Dreamscapes has some duds, but I overall really like when
I
that
really
book.
like it. It's got a couple duds, but it has some awesome stories in there too.
Yeah, when it hits, it really hit.
Yeah, that's what I'm rereading that one at some point later in the fall, or early summer, I think, or late fall, late summer, early fall.
They got a hell of a band. Just
That's a fun one.
so much fun.
I really like. I thought Sneakers was creepy as hell.
That was
I like
good.
home. I think Home Delivery is super underappreciated.
Which one was that?
It's like the woman who her husband goes out on a lobster, like he's a lobster fisherman, and he goes out to see she's pregnant, and then there's like mention of a weird asteroid, and like so crazy shit's happening all over the world, but like on their little town, their little island, um, there's like zombies start coming to life, and like so there's this weird like shootout scene where these guys are like protecting the town, like just trying to kill these zombies at the graveyard. Like they literally stand at the graveyard and kill them as they like come out of the ground. And then her husband ends up showing up at her house later, and she like fends him off, and then has the baby herself at home, like as a home delivery or whatever. But it's like in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, I guess is kind of like what King was like going for. But
Mm-hmm.
all in a short story. So it's like I like it so much because there is just so much like random shit going on. You're like, what the hell is happening here?
What was that one called again?
Home Delivery.
Home Delivery. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to
And then
reread that one.
I think the second story in the collection, End of the Whole Mess, is one of my favorites because it's like the guy's writing about how the world's kind of going to shit because everyone's drinking this like water that his brother found, and it's really making everyone get like
Yeah,
dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever. Like it's that story is really good.
that was a wicked good one.
I like those stories where he like writes where it's about a character like writing down his experience, like Survivor type and
Mm-hmm.
Skeleton Crew and stuff like that. Those ones are fun.
It's one of my favorite ones, but I can't think of the name. When the guy starts seeing like people for how they really are, and like they have like was like the bat heads or something.
Oh, the 10 o'clock people.
I really
All
enjoyed
the
that
like
story.
everyone who like goes out to smoke is like
Yep,
they're actually like immune or whatever. It's weird.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
That one was funky. The only thing with that one that like was really weird was the guy like when he went to that meeting of like the vampire hunters, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then when he escaped that like ambush, he just leaves town, like left his family behind. I was like, you just left like with no second thought. You just dipped out in your whole like life.
Hey, they know where he is. They know where he lives, so
They knew that he knew.
gotta go on the road and kill vampires. See ya, kids.
Yeah. And the story in that Popsy about the vampire that like saves his son from a molester or whatever,
Yep.
or saves his grandson. That was the same vampire from the Night Flyer too. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, if you like at the end of the book, there's like a little note about it, and he's like, and King's pretty much like, if you thought that, you're right. Like, it's funny.
Yeah, if you have not, please read Nightmares and Dreamscapes. It's, I think, vastly underappreciated.
Yeah, it's a really fun collection.
Its
For
two
sure.
older brothers, Night Shift and Skeleton Crew, are just so god tier that people seem
Yeah,
to forget about some of his other short story collections. I'm
yeah,
a,
that one definitely is like when you put all his short story collections together, like that one is 100% deserves to be in the middle because of how like awesome Night Shift and Skeleton Crew are, and then how like not so awesome Just After Sunset and Bizarre Bad Dreams are. But I really like Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Like personally, I think I like it more than some of the other ones.
what about Everything's Eventual? Because I've not read it.
Oh yeah, that one belongs. That one is super underappreciated. I
Okay,
think.
good to know.
I think it's it definitely lives in that middle tier as well in terms of like the duds and the good ones. Um, but I put it like when I did my rankings recently, I had it like just below Nightmares and Dreamscapes, Night Shift, and Skeleton Crew. Like it's like right there, and then there's a big gap. But when you get to Just After Sunset and Bizarre, but Everything's Eventual has there are no like middle tier stories in that collection for me. I think everything's either really good or really bad. So it's like
Okay. Okay. I'm excited.
1408 is in Everything's Eventual. If you've seen that movie, the short stories in that, it's awesome. There's also one. The title is literally that word you can only say in French, or that feeling you can only say in French. Like the title is really long, but it's just deja vu is what he's talking about.
Mhm.
And the stat story is really messed up. Yeah, there's a bunch of really good ones in that collection. Doesn't get talked about nearly enough.
That's good to know. Um, mm, I mean, right now I'm really focusing on Dark Tower, but
Yeah,
I'm doing
I would definitely do that.
I'll hit that one up really really soon.
Yeah, especially because the two stories that are DT related in
Yes.
there.
What is it? Everything's Eventual and the Little Sisters of.
Illyria, yep. Yeah,
You said.
Little Sisters is just it's about Roland literally right before Gunslinger.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it's just a little mini like prologue and some kind of crazy shit happens. It's cool. And then Everything's Eventual is just a little side story about one of the characters that pops up later.
Cool. Mm. I'm loving my Dark Tower journey.
Yeah, there's so much. There's so much to touch on. It's really cool. Just how vast he made like his universe and how he keeps throwing stuff in to tie it together is awesome.
Do you think he'll ever add more to it?
I don't think so, and I think that's probably for the best as well. Just because I don't think he could do anything to make it any better at this point. Like I think it's like where it's at is it's in a good spot, and I think anything else will make it. It'll either be too much or whatever he does just won't be like up to par. Like even I mean even when I read like went to the keyhole, like I liked it, but I didn't necessarily think it was. I didn't think it was really necessary.
Yeah, because that's
Like
between
it
4 and 5, right?
technically it was released in 2012 and only like 20% of the story takes place between 4 and 5. The
The
rest of
rest.
it is all like it's Roland and the Cotet. They like sit there like between 4 and 5, and Roland goes, "All right, let me tell you a story," and it goes to like his past about a little adventure he has with one of his friends, and then in the middle of that adventure, he tells somebody else a story about that's like a Dark Tower fairy tale. So it's like some story that every Dark Tower kid knows or
Hmm.
kid in Roland's world. So it's like literally two or whatever 80% of the story doesn't have any sort of effect on the overall journey. Even that 20% that takes place between 4 and 5 doesn't affect books 4 or books 5. So
Okay, so
yeah,
it's just another Wizarding Glass. He's telling them a story.
kind of, but even less of it is about Roland than Wizard and Glass was. Like again, the majority of the flashback part of it
Mhm.
is just like an overarching fairy tale that like all kids in Roland's world know. So it's like it's just like it's interesting, it's cool, it's fun read, but like could the DT world stand up without it? Yeah, for sure. Like it doesn't need it at all.
You recently, I think it was could have been one of your stories. I forget, but you showed one of your old posts from when you read Black House, and you're talking about how the Black House has a lot of Dark Tower
It
references.
does. Yeah.
I know, obviously, you've said before that you read the Dark Tower and then you kind of did all the side things to kind of add
Mm-hmm.
up to it. Um, does the Talisman of Black House have a lot of Dark Tower stuff? Like, would you?
So the Talisman, when you get around to the Talisman, when you read it, it feels a lot like a Dark Tower book. And he wrote it before a lot of the Dark Tower books. Like I think he wrote it between Gunslinger and Drawing of the Three.
Mhm.
I believe I have to double check on the years on that, but I'm pretty sure that's when it came out. So it almost serves as like a precursor to a lot of the themes he touches on throughout Dark Tower. But there's no direct ties in Talisman, at least. But Black House, on the other hand, like he wrote it 25 years later, um, and it is like heavily Dark Tower influence, like throughout the entire book. Like Crimson King gets mentioned, Roland gets mentioned, the Little Sisters get mentioned, which is really interesting because like that was just really in just a short story or
Yeah.
a novella. Um, like they get mentioned that there's all this like the tower is talked about. Like it's interesting. They even go to, or I guess I don't know. It touches on a lot of Dark Tower stuff like very directly.
Mm,
So it's kind of and it brings up an aspect that doesn't get touched on until like the later books because it came out in 2001 and the last three didn't come out till after that.
mhm.
So it brings up an aspect that again like I don't think it gets touched on until the last book, like what I'm referring to. So it's interesting. But I think knowing all the DT stuff actually makes Black House better. Like if you read Dark Tower first,
Okay.
and same with Talisman. Like I think some people read. I know a lot of people that have read Talisman and gotten really bored with it because it is bloated, but it's a cool adventure story. Like, but and then Black House is like similar to Outsider, where it's more crime driven,
Okay.
but also very supernatural and super heavy with the Dark Tower ties.
Damn it, Tony. I'm just I'm looking at like just the order of things, and so Talisman and Black House I can wait till after.
Yes, I think they're better if you wait till after,
Okay. I mean, I'm definitely
because you already have like the prior knowledge of what the Dark Tower is and like the what the series is and represents and all
Mhm.
the groundwork he's laid down. So then when you read those two, you're like, oh, okay, like this is really interesting. Like that's what he's going for here.
Okay. It's such a wonderful first world problem because I'm
Yeah.
just loving what I'm getting right now. I mean, desperation's really starting to pick up. This cop is just freaking out there, and I'm just really liking the amount of work he put in to
Yeah.
try and just connect everything. I don't know how desperation regulators connects just yet, but I'm already loving desperation.
Yeah. Desperation is nuts. There's a lot of like crazy shit that goes on in there. Especially at the beginning. I think the onset is one of those things. Like I read it when I read it the first time, I was legitimately shocked at a couple. I was like, what? Like you get introduced to these characters, and then all of a sudden there's you're like, what the hell's going on?
They're gone.
So it's nuts.
I'm getting a misery feel from it, like Annie with just a bunch of people.
Yeah, sort of, and it just gets crazy from there. Like, and then regulators is a little different the way it's done. Like you get desperations in a whatever, like abandoned desert town in middle of fucking nowhere, Nevada, and then you get um regulators is in a like small stereotypical suburban street in Ohio. So it's like, you know, the way he does these contrasts is really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the last thing I read, like the cop sneezed and like the sneeze smelled like dead, like rotting meat,
Yeah,
and like
the way
some
he
of the
describes like Collie in Desperation reminds me a lot of like Stark in the Dark Tower
yeah.
when he's like falling apart. You know, like it's really really fun.
Fun, Tony says. His friggin' teeth come out, and
Oh man, anything with teeth, I can't deal with that.
thank
Teeth,
you.
the teeth falling out freaked me out. That was like the biggest thing that when I reread Tommyknockers recently, like the all the teeth falling out, I was just like, ugh, no, please stop.
Yeah, teeth is something I don't mess with. I don't like the dentist, but you know what? There's nothing worse than teeth pain
Yeah,
and just no, I can't do it. So
it's
Tony,
it's not it's not fun.
no. So Tony, as we wrap up, what do you got going on? What do you plan on reading
I'm gonna
besides Dark
finish Dark
Tower?
Tower, which is great. I'm excited. And then I already mentioned I'm doing like that 7 months of Bachman, which I'm gonna announce that somewhat soon. Well, I
Nice,
guess by the time this airs, we'll already be going into it. Um,
sweet.
also the latter half of the year, I think I'm gonna do all three of the Mercedes books. Just try them again. I want to see if the first two hold up, and I want to see if the third one is any better for me this time around.
Okay.
Um, what else was I gonna do? I think I might. I don't know. We'll see. I'm also. I in November I started reading all of Michael Crichton's work in
I noticed you've
chronological
been doing
order.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so he obviously Jurassic Park's like one of my favorite movies, and I read the book when I was in like early high school, and then read it again along with The Lost World again in like mid high school. And then I read Micro when it came out my senior year of high school, and then I didn't really touch him again until somewhat recently. And I read Prey and then both the Jurassic Park books again.
Mm-hmm.
And then in November, I decided I was like, I'm going to read them all because I have them all, so I might as well, right?
Nice.
So I started doing his stuff in chronological order. And I think his writing is really interesting. Way different than King, like way less horror related, but he does touch on some horror elements in his books that are really good. But Crichton is a lot more science and factual driven to the point where he like a lot of his books almost have literal like textbook excerpts that he like throws in there because he was just a brilliant dude. I mean, he's dead now, but he was really smart, and a lot of his books they're fun. Like the one I just read was about some guy that goes and lives with Vikings for a while, and that was pretty
Really?
wild. So yeah, it
Nice.
was cool. And it was apparently based off a real manuscript. So it was like he like took someone's actual story and just kind of embellished it a little bit and threw in some like factual footnotes at the bottom of each page to like explain some things that he was talking about.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like Crichton's Ode to Beowulf in a way.
Very cool.
Called Eaters of the Dead. I just did it. Just read it in the end of January.
My last question for you, being a fellow horror fan, have you read anything by Clive Barker?
I've read The Hellbound Heart and The Thief of Always.
Okay.
Hellbound Heart was the basis for Hellraiser.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think the movie's better. Like the novella was good, but it like the way Barker writes sometimes he like almost, at least from what I've read, I don't have a lot of experience with him, but he almost tries to get like too flowery, too fancy with his words sometimes, where it like takes away from like what you're reading. So
I've heard that before. Yep.
that's why I wasn't like super into Hellbound Heart. And like the movie, they changed one of the characters like relation to the main characters, and it made more sense in the movie than it did in the book. Like I think in the book it was like just like the dude's ex-girlfriend that was like living with them, and I was like, that's weird. So they made it his like daughter that's in her 20s or something. I was like, that makes a lot more sense like in the movie. So I was like,
Okay.
this is just, it was weird. Like the book was weird and the movie's very weird too, but the movie was good. The other one I read was The Thief of Always, and that one was really good. It's almost like a fable and kind of reads more for a younger audience, but it's still dark, and it's like I wouldn't say it's a young adult book or anything. It's definitely still an adult novel, but
Mm-hmm.
it reads a little lighter. And the way it's written, it like almost sounds like a story you'd like that would be told to you like as like a scary bedtime story or like a campfire story. But
Okay.
it's cool. It has a lot of interesting scenes and themes and stuff. Kind of like Hansel and Gretel vibes a little bit.
Nice. The reason I
Yeah.
ask is I started reading him last year. I read Hellbound Heart like you did, and the first books of Blood. So this
Oh
year
yeah, I heard those were cool.
yeah, I mean when very different from King. I think he's a little bit more grotesque, but
Yeah.
it's not over like I don't it is over the top, but it's not like in poor taste. Like it's very well written.
Yeah.
So I plan to read a little bit more books of Blood as well as one of his big novels.
I started Weave World at one point and I liked what I read, and then I just got too busy to keep picking it up. And I want to eventually get back to that one. But that one's like super fantasy driven.
Yeah.
And that's not normally something I'm super keen on.
Okay.
But I definitely want to check it out. I also want to at some point get to the Lord of the Rings books. I haven't read those. I love the movies, but you know, with my love for Dark Tower, I feel like that's something I should get to. I should actually read at some point.
I've only read The Hobbit and Fellowship, but they are amazing. I just have to once again
Yeah.
get to the other two.
Yeah, I have all four in like two different little sets, but I just haven't read them yet.
So Tony, where can the good people find you?
Tony's Horror Corner on Instagram, and I have a little link tree there that you can find all my other social media as well. Yeah, that's where I'm at, and I'm on that Instagram most of the time. So
Please follow Tony. I mean, if you are a King fan or you just love looking at sexy foreign editions of books, check him out because he has some really nice ones. Those Japanese ones are amazing.
Yeah, they're fun. The Russian ones are cool too.
Oh, I almost got the Russian version of The Stand. It was such a nice cover. I want it.
Oh yeah, with the little Grim Reaper guy on it.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have that one, but I know a couple of my friends that do, and that one's really cool.
Well, Tony, thank you for spending time here at KPM.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for all of your insight, and thank you for helping me with Dark Tower because I have
Of
a
course.
lot to go. Thank you
It's
again,
always fun.
and hope to have you back again.
Sounds good. See you
Have a good
guys.
one, Tony.
Yeah.